On our paper, we have 4 dots. The dots on your paper are actually very light. The rest of your rows should be drawn as light as the dots that are on your paper. My dots are heavy because they need to show up on the camera. I'm going to draw my rows heavy so that you can see it, but you need to draw your rows lightly, just in case you make mistakes and need to erase. Make sure that your paper is going up and down, and place it in a way where there is actually more empty space at the bottom under the dots than there is at the top of the page. Using your pencil, you do this lightly, I'm going to do this heavy. Connect these 2 dots as well as these. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Now draw a line, a horizontal line, to connect the bottom. I'm going to zoom in now to the bottom. Underneath the bottom, think about where the middle looks, and a ways underneath the middle of this line, put you in another light dot. Hold down your paper, focus on this bottom dot. Lightly draw a line that goes a little bit out to the left of it and a little ways out to the right of it. Focus on the corner of this box area and connect with a rounded line this side into that line. Focus on the bottom left corner. Use kind of a rounded line to connect into this bottom horizontal line. Skip some space. You can use the ruler for this if you want. I'm going to draw 2 vertical parallel lines. Now we're going to connect this area into this vertical line. Use a curved line. Has a slight curve to it. Doing the same on the other side in this area right here. Slight curved line feeding into those earlier vertical parallel lines that we laid in. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. We no longer need this line right here. So I drew some stitches through it to let you know the area that we are about to erase. Take your eraser and small circle out that old line. Find this area right here and curve a little bit up and over from it. Find this area right here and curve a little bit up and over from it. Now take a look at this old horizontal line right here. Skip a little space down. I'll put a little dot there to show you how far I've skipped down. and I'm going to curve out and down, kind of through. Out and down a bit ways through those old lines. If they overlapped a little bit, then I'll erase the overlap out. There's a new line that we don't need anymore. I'll draw some stitches through it just to give you an idea of the line that we're about to erase out. That's why you should always draw lightly in class, because you never know what line was just a measurement line or a reference line that we end up taking out later. I'll zoom out a little bit more to give you an idea of what our paper should look like now. It's time to now focus on these top dots up here. I'll zoom in. Take your pencil and turn this dot into a slight curve going out and over to the left. It should be small. It's really small. I'll use my pencil as a reference. That's how small that curve is. The same on the other side. Focusing on this dot now, making an extremely little small curve. In fact, I could probably make this one a little bit smaller. There. Slight little curves. When I zoom out, that's how little the curves are. We're going to keep curving this line going up, over, and back in a little ways. So I'll zoom in for this. Where we left off right here, I'm going to just go up, over, and back in some. Same thing on the other side. Slightly up, over, and back in a little bit. We're going to extend this line. We're going to create a curve that goes out, over, and ends here. So there's a goal. If you want to place your finger in this area to let you know that it curves to this kind of leaf petal on the stem, it curves to about the top left side of this. If you want to just watch me first, then do so, connecting this shape, curving out, over, and pulling it to meet this top left corner of this stem leaf right here. With roses, they start folding out and away, folding towards the viewer. Here's the line that we just made. But if you look in this area here, there is a slightly little wavy line that's kind of far away from the curve at first, and the ever so slight wavy line becomes one with the curve right about here. So we are about to create this line here. If this is blowing your mind, it's okay. I'll step by step show you what we're doing. I'm going to zoom back in. We're going to focus on creating a line from this dot right here that follows along with that curve and gets closer and closer to it and then disappears into it. Place your pencil back at the dot. Do this slightly just in case you need to erase. I'm going to follow along with the original curve, adding slight waviness to it, and then it's just going to disappear into the curve. Let's extend this curve a little bit this way. Not up, not totally horizontal, that way. so that we're not just dragging it straight down. Let's bring it over a ways first, and then pull it into that old curve. Just like what we did here where the petal is curling out and away, we're going to do that here. Place your pencil back at the dot, and we're going to make a slightly waved line that gets closer and closer to this original curve and disappears. So I'll do a demonstration. Notice how the line was kind of far away here from the curve, and it gets slowly closer and closer and closer to it, but it disappears behind this entire section of a petal. When I zoom out, it looks like this. We're more than halfway done at this point. The next place that we're going to focus on is this middle area. I can show you an example. A common mistake that I see that students do here is they make these little vertical lines too long. These little vertical lines that we're about to make are so very tiny. If you make these two next lines too long, it's not going to look like a rose anymore. I'm going to zoom into this area here to try to show you just how short these little vertical lines are. Let's see, not in the deeper area of the V, in the wider area of the V. I'll start on this side because I'm left-handed so that you can see. Think of like a minus sign. That's how little, a tiny little vertical minus sign. And it's not up here, it's right here. On this side, think of a minus sign, just like if you were writing a math equation. That's how little it is. And when I zoom out, you'll really see that it's so small. Those are just the smallest little minus sign lines ever. On the right minus sign, let's kind of round the edge out a little bit of a rounded edge. And there's a goal place that we need to curve into, which is about right here. So I'm going to create a diagonal, slightly curved line that goes from here to here. On this minus sign, curve the edge a bit, make a rounded edge, and we're going to create a diagonal curved line that ends right about here. When I zoom out, it's looking like this. For the very middle part, I want you to think of an extremely little shallow hill. A common mistake that I see with this is that students do a crazy big bump of a hill. This is an extremely shallow little curved line. I'll zoom in for this. It doesn't start way over here. Let's go down into the letter V and just create the small little bump inside of the letter V. Inside of this little hill, we're going to make another slightly curved diagonal line. Don't make it meet up with this line too much. See how this one has a nice little gap right there? It helps push this area back in space a bit more. And then I'm going to do another very small minus sign at a slight diagonal right in this area right here. And when I zoom out, that's what it's looking like. This is the part where you need to start designing your rose. Do you want thorns to be on your rose? Do you want a leaf to be on your rose? We practice water drops. Do you want a water drop to be on your rose? I would only advise that for someone who's a bit more advanced, because you're still going to have to do my shading and stuff around this. As part of my rubric, you have to put water drops somewhere in the background. So do you want your water drops to all be above the rose, or do you want to scatter them and have them in places underneath and above? Do you want water drops that run down a little bit? You also have to put fire. You need to have your main fire. You could do your hills of your fire going long ways like how we did them, or all you have to do is just put your hills at an angle, and then your fire can, this is just a very quick version. You can have flames going at an angle more so towards your rose. Or you can do your flames coming down above the rose. You can add little extras. Like, for example, I have a couple little extra. Once you do your main flames, you can add extras on the rose or on the stem. This is the part where we get to express what we've learned in a creative way.